They are the only guarantee that life will carry on.
So I watched Godzilla. I left the theater with a huge kaiju-sized grin on my face. Like, this movie, Godzilla, King of Monsters, is, I don't know why the critics have it. I think the critics had it at like a 22% or something like that, but the audience has the rating, last I checked, it was at something like 86. And the movie is nonsensical. It's a nonsensical B-movie that knows it's a B-movie, and it's just like it's like a high school quarterback, you know? It's big and it's dumb, but it's just so entertaining to watch. You know, my lizard brain was just giddy with excitement when the big monsters were, you know, going around just smashing buildings and beating up on each other. It's just, even now I'm like smiling and I just remembering the movie, and it's just like, it's such a dumb movie, but it's so awesome. Such an awesome movie to see. And I'm gonna go through a couple of the points that I really enjoyed. The cinematography is good, really good in it. The acting is horrible, but it's a kaiju movie, you know, it's a big monster movie. You're not gonna go see any Shakespearean moments in there. You're not gonna learn anything new about yourself or the world around you. You know, it's just monsters crashing into each other, screaming. There's buildings getting leveled. You know, there's great shots of just how large the monsters are in relation to everything else around them. And there's fires and there's explosions and there's not laser beams, but like dragon breath and like lightning breath, and it's just the movie's just bonkers, right? But in a good way. It's worth the watch. It really is, especially on a big screen, because the monsters, with the size of the theater screen, it makes the monsters look just that much more epic. That's not a good word to use. It just makes them look more grand. There we go. It makes them look as towering as they should be, you know, over these little cities that look like Legos in front of them. So definitely I'd say go watch it. I watched it twice, and some of the parts with the humans, like I said, the movie's not really focused on them, or it shouldn't have been focused on them. It tries at parts to like switch between the monsters fighting and then the humans somehow surviving everything. I don't know how they survive this stuff. A really cool movie, and really by the end of it, I was just smiling ear to ear.
Ear to ear.
Right, it was just that, and I don't know what caused it either, because I didn't really tune into what was going on until the monsters were fighting, right? Until Ghidorah was on screen, or Godzilla, or Mothra, or what's that other one with the wings, whatever, the volcano pterodactyl thing. Until they were on screen fighting each other, I didn't really pay attention to the humans at all, right? So the plot and the whole entire course of the movie hinges on, oh, by the way, I don't remember anyone's name in this thing except Emma. That's the only one I remember, and she's the scientist. She plays Millie Bobby Brown's mother in the whole thing. And I don't know if these people were in the other Godzilla movie from 2014. I didn't watch that movie because it just, something about the trailer just seemed like it was gonna be a waste of time and boring. So I never watched it. And then once the movie came out, everyone was saying how boring the movie was to watch, and how it wasn't focused on the kaiju enough. That's what people were complaining about, how Godzilla was there, and then it's like, oh yeah, he's about to do something, and then here are the humans. Oh, Godzilla's about to do something, and then here are the humans. So I never saw it, so I don't know how the story in this one picks up from that one, if at all, or how many of the characters were in the first one and this one, except for Ken Watanabe. He plays, who knows. The whole movie is dependent solely upon Emma's desire to release these kaiju from around the world, because her son died, and I don't remember what the kid died of, but you know, in most cases when a loved one dies, people tend to, you know, raise awareness about whatever it was that killed them, be it cancer or AIDS or Twitter. You know, people raise awareness about these things, or they'll start a charity, you know, they'll give donations to whoever, maybe start a foundation if they got the kind of money, you know, something like that. But Emma was like, no, my kid died, so I'm gonna release all these monsters, and then they're gonna wipe out humanity, and somehow that's going to make humanity better, because there is an imbalance in the world because of humanity, and we're destroying nature, so we'll have nature destroy humanity. And it, you know, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. So Emma creates this thing called the oracle or orator, origami, orca. This thing called the orca, right? Which I thought was a whale, but whatever. So she creates this thing called the orca, and she's able to talk to the kaiju in like these basic sound tones. And you know, it's a bunch of techno babble going on with this thing. It's the MacGuffin in the movie. Get the orca, control the monsters. So she has the orca, and then Watanabe and the main guy and their whole team, the guy from Silicon Valley's in there, Ice Cube's son is in there. He's a Marine or a soldier. I think it's a Marine. And so they're all after her and Tywin Lannister, and he's got his private army, and he's helping her release these kaiju. I don't remember what his motivation was. Didn't really matter. Like I said, the human part of the story is very throwaway. It's not very good. Millie Bobby Brown is with her because the mother, Emma, told Millie Bobby Brown some story about, you know, this thing will help bring their son back, or her brother back. And the explanation doesn't make any sense, but the movie doesn't make any sense either. So, you know, it's whatever, skip all that. That's the whole plot of the movie, is them trying to get this MacGuffin from Emma in order to stop the monsters from being awakened, which of course does not happen. They all get awakened, and the movie really does very well, like I said, with displaying the monsters on screen. Godzilla looks huge. Ghidorah looks really great, especially with the when Ghidorah like displays its wings after it first gets out of the ice, I think that's when it does it. And then also Mothra. The movie, like I said, having it on the wide screen like that, it really showcases how large these monsters and their wingspans are. Yeah, Ghidorah gets released, and in that fight in the Arctic, everyone that was still there at this base, that's called the Monarch base. And every time someone said Monarch, I immediately thought of the Venture Brothers. You know, I just want to go Team Venture. And that might have been part of my reason for smiling so much, because I just kept seeing the Monarch in my head when it would just say on the screen, you know, Monarch Base 35 or Monarch Base whatever. And so that didn't ruin the movie for me, but it did like force me to think of something else, which is not what you want to do when you're watching a movie, right? When you're producing a movie, you don't want someone to think of something else not related to your film. But anyway, I think that helped enhance it for me, and personally, because I love the Venture Brothers. It's a weird show. The Monarch is a weird villain, and this whole movie was weird as hell also, you know? So yeah, the kaiju are at these Monarch bases under government guard or whatever, and Ghidorah gets released from the ice, and the one guy, the main guy, Millie Bobby Brown's father, I think he's Emma's ex-husband. I don't know how that worked out. Like I said, throwaway garbage. He really does not like Godzilla. He really does not like him, really. It got that point across to me very, very well, and repeatedly for like for like 3/4 of the movie, the guy's like, we gotta get Godzilla. And it's like, okay, he's like, we gotta go get Godzilla. We gotta stop these guys. We gotta stop Godzilla. Like, okay, guy, we get it. He's like, we gotta stop Godzilla. It's like, you just said that like 15 seconds ago. We're on it, you know. He really doesn't like Godzilla or the kaiju, I think, in general, but mainly the Godzilla. And so, husband and wife are at odds, right? So, okay, fine. There's a little bit of conflict there. It's not very well developed. It's kind of lame. And so, back to Ghidorah. Once he gets released, once he gets released from the ice at that Monarch base, Tywin's guys and everyone else is still there. And so Ghidorah's coming out of the ice, and the whole thing starts to collapse. And so everyone's still there, and I'm like, well, they're all dead, right? Because there's no way all that ice is falling down, and you know, Ghidorah is going on a rampage, shooting lightning everywhere, but everyone's dead, right? And of course, everyone wasn't dead. So I was like, all right, movie, sure, okay. So they sometimes battle Ghidorah for a little bit, and of course, a couple people get killed. The main cast of characters survives, obviously. And so until Godzilla shows up, and this is, I believe, round 1 between Godzilla and Ghidorah in the movie, and Godzilla wins this one? No, Godzilla loses, but it's not really Godzilla loses because Ghidorah ends up getting away. And so the orca in this whole thing is kind of like, if they have it set to the right frequency, the kaiju will stop what they're doing. You know, it's basically like a trigger for them. Like if they hear a certain frequency, they go bananas. If they hear another one, they calm down. It's techno babble stuff. So anyway, round 1 goes to Ghidorah, and then the husband dude and Watanabe and everyone, they're on this like stealth jet fighter, but it's like an S-class version. It's like a luxury version of a stealth bomber. It looks really cool, but still, they all should have died on the ice, right? So they get away from there, and Ghidorah is somehow like an alien. And as it flies, it can control the weather around it, so it creates hurricanes while it's flying. So I was like, all right. And so they're tracking Ghidorah as this storm, and it's going up the Gulf Coast, because I think they were in Antarctica, so they got up past South America pretty fast. So Ghidorah is in like the Gulf Coast, and it's like this storm, and then Godzilla's headed to Mexico, where another Monarch base is, and that's where Rodan is, the big pterodactyl volcano creature, which looks really cool. That whole sequence where Rodan gets out of its cell in the Monarch base looks really cool as it's flying over the city and it's just destroying everything, and the wingspan is just massive, and then it does a little bit of a tussle with the army or the Air Force out there, and it takes on all these jets. It all looks very good. Like I said, I was just grinning the whole time. Every time the monsters were on screen, I was just grinning. And so Rodan's free, and Rodan attacks Ghidorah, Ghidorah beats Rodan, and then Godzilla pops up because it was going to Mexico anyway, you know, on holiday. And so after Rodan gets beaten and Godzilla comes out of the water, round 2 with Ghidorah. And so at that point, some random military general whose name I don't know, but he's been in a couple movies. He was in Good Night, Good Luck, and I think he was in the Bourne Identity. No, he's in Bourne Ultimatum, I think. He was a bad guy in Bourne Ultimatum. He orders some kind of an oxygen bomb or something, and they're fighting, Ghidorah and Godzilla are fighting in the water in this oxygen missile bomb thing. I mean, it's launched out of nowhere. I don't know if it came from space aboard, you know, that weather machine, that geostorm machine. I don't know where the hell it came from. It just goes into the water, it blows up, and Ghidorah is presumed dead as well as Godzilla, but then Ghidorah flies away, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we can hear Godzilla's heartbeat because of, you know, technology. And so they're hearing heartbeat, and Godzilla is presumed dead. And of course, during this blast, which I guess the guy said was like 2-mile or 5-mile radius, of course the people in the luxury stealth bomber, they're close enough to see it, but they're not close enough to get hurt by it. So, you know, no one dies. And so Godzilla's presumed dead, and it's at this point where the movie slows down to a snail's pace, and it's all about human stuff, and I don't know, somebody had a bad party or something. I don't know, it was boring. I started to fall asleep until Watanabe was like, hey, let's get an atomic bomb and use that to wake up Godzilla, because maybe he's not really dead. And so Watanabe personally takes a nuclear weapon into the water. I mean, this movie is just so he takes a nuclear weapon into the water, and he sacrifices himself in detonating it in like this lava crevice, or like this little lava space near the Earth's mantle. I don't know. And so that's where Godzilla's kind of chilling out. Well, chilling out in lava, I don't know how you do that, but so that's where Godzilla was. And so, yeah, the thing gets detonated, Watanabe dies, and it's kind of a callback to how Godzilla was created in the first place. Because for those who don't know, Godzilla is a metaphor for the destructive force and radiation that occurs after a nuclear blast. And that's literally tied into their history of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II, well, which ended World War II. So it's kind of a poignant moment right there. I gotta give it credit for that. So Godzilla is resurrected, and we skip a bunch of crap where Millie Bobby Brown takes the orca and she goes off to Boston. I don't know how she got there. Oh no, maybe the last thing was in Boston. Anyway, they wind up in Boston and she uses the orca to call Ghidorah to her. I don't know why, I don't know what she was thinking. So Ghidorah shows up in Boston, and then Millie Bobby Brown breaks the thing, intentionally breaks it, and Ghidorah's on a rampage, tearing down buildings, and of course, Millie Bobby Brown does not die. And buildings are falling around everywhere around her, but she's saved by a bathtub. Oh man. So everyone else shows up, and Ghidorah's already there, you know, going berserk. And so Godzilla shows up, and he's got the Air Force with them, and it's a real cool shot where they're panning up and you see Godzilla just, and the planes are flying behind him. Really cool shot. So the Air Force attacks Ghidorah, and then Godzilla rushes in. So it's round 3 with Ghidorah and Godzilla. And the fight, again, very entertaining fight to watch them do their moves. Ghidorah's moving its head in these weird ways, like a whip. And Rodan shows up for some reason. Rodan shows up for, I don't know why Rodan showed up, but it showed up there. And Mothra showed up there, and there's a sub battle between Rodan and Mothra. And Mothra eventually beats Rodan, and then Godzilla loses to Ghidorah, right? And Godzilla's on the ground, and it's not defeated yet. It's not like knocked out. It's not like KO'd, but it's there. And then Mothra's like, well, I'm gonna take on Ghidorah right now. And so Ghidorah basically does this lightning breath thing, and it vaporizes Mothra, and Mothra, you know, sprinkles down into, I don't know, like magic dust, fairy dust or something all over Godzilla's body. And then Ghidorah wraps its necks around, because you know Ghidorah is a 3-headed dragon, you know, Hail Hydra. And so it wraps its necks around Godzilla, and it flies it up into the sky, and it all looks really good. Like, it's really fun to watch, this whole thing. Flies up into the atmosphere, and then lets Godzilla go, and Godzilla comes crashing down to Earth like a huge asteroid, right? And of course, there are still people on the ground now, because Emma and the husband came looking for Millie Bobby Brown. And so they're all walking around looking for her, and they do find her in the bathtub. But when Godzilla hits the ground, the impact again is just such a crater-creating impact that no, everyone on the ground is dead, right? My brain was just like, there's no way these people survive. They're all dead, right? But no, the mother Millie Bobby Brown and the father, they live, and some random soldier, or maybe she wasn't random, I don't know what her name was, but anyway, she dies for some rubble, and the polite rubble avoids, of course, the family. And so they decide, okay, now it's time for us to leave, and the luxury stealth bomber is there, and it's like, okay, let's all take off. And keep in mind that the mother was the villain throughout this whole thing. She was the one that's like, no, we have to let all the kaiju out. We gotta let her out. So she's definitely the villain of the movie, where you would think that the trailers were trying to portray Tywin Lannister as the villain. He's barely registers at all. So she's definitely the villain throughout the whole thing. And so when they're all getting ready to escape, you know, she's like, oh yeah, if I do this thing with the orca, we can, I don't know, technobabble, whatever. And so she and the husband, you know, they magic tools and spare parts out of their pockets or wherever, and then they fix the freaking orca thing. And I'm like, where they get the resistors or capacitors or the wiring or the or all the tools to fix this, because it looks like a very complicated piece of equipment that you just can't put some bubble gum on me. You're like, okay, it's good now. So, you know, they pull some magic out of their pockets and they fix it. Or maybe there was tools in the Humvee, but I doubt it was anything specific enough for the orca. That's what I'm saying. So they fix the thing, and then they're all like, yeah, let's get out of here. But then the woman, Emma, is like, no, I'll stay. and distract Ghidorah with this thing while you all escape. So at that point, of course, you're supposed to like feel, I don't know, bad for her or cheer her on for taking one for the team. But I was just like, okay, get out of there. Because like I said, she's been the villain the whole time. Now she's just flip of a switch. She's supposed to be good. I'm supposed to sympathize with her. I was like, no, that's not happening. You know, that is not happening. So she takes off in the Humvee with the orca thing on, and Ghidorah follows her. They take off in their luxury stealth bomber, but they don't leave immediately. They're kind of just hanging out, I don't know, maybe a mile away or something like that. And so she's driving around. Ghidorah's breaking down buildings, and she's escaping the lightning in a Humvee. Okay, they do not go that fast, but she's able to outrun Ghidorah for quite a while, and she did it in high heels too. no, okay, not in high heels, but that would have just been so perfect if she had gotten out the Humvee and she was wearing high heels. I'd been like, all right, Jurassic World, here we go. That's the link. They're the same universe. And so eventually Ghidorah does smash enough buildings, and the debris stops being polite, and it smashes the Humvee, and it flips, right? And she ends up on the outside of the Humvee, but she doesn't appear to be no scrapes or any drop of blood or a broken fingernail, not a hair out of place. She looks like she just was just chilling out there. And so I was like, is she gonna live? She better not live. So as Ghidorah is closing in on her, the movie goes from what I would consider like a 10.5, got this whole final third, this whole final monster fight, to like a 15, right? Because as Ghidorah is like charging up its next for another lightning strike in order to kill Emma, it actually takes the time for her to say, "Long live the king." And then that's when Ghidorah's like, wait a minute, there's something in the air. And when you see like Godzilla is walking through the building, and it's radiating so much heat. Oh, the thing is, to set back just a little bit. After Watanabe detonated the nuclear bomb on Godzilla, one of the scientists on board the luxury bomber kept on saying, oh yeah, he's got a couple minutes or whatever until it's a complete meltdown, because it was just so much, the nuclear blast just created so much heat energy, I guess, in Godzilla, that it was just gonna eventually be like a meltdown and to just blow out of him. So they kept making a point to say, okay, it's got, you know, X amount of minutes or whatever. So when Godzilla's walking through the city now, and it's lava red. I mean, just like lava red. He's Lava Godzilla. Lavazilla? That's pretty good. He's Lavazilla. And like buildings are literally melting with every step in front of it. It just looks so awesome, but it's so dumb, and it's just so awesome, and it's so dumb. It's like, why wouldn't the earth melt beneath his feet also? How come he's not just sinking into the ground? But whatever. He's melting buildings, but he's not melting the concrete or the asphalt it's walking on. Okay, fine, sure. So it's melting everything in its path, and it reaches Ghidorah, and easily just beats Ghidorah. I mean, it's literally just, I don't know, Super Saiyan Godzilla. It looked just hilarious, and it was just so great. And he fights Ghidorah, easily beats Ghidorah, literally eats him up and spits him out. But it does this thing where, like the countdown was saying, it expels all this energy, and that's where you see what kills Ghidorah to begin with, these energy blasts that are just like these huge explosions. But the people in the luxury jet, the luxury bomber, they're not affected by it at all, or even though they're able to see this stuff. And I'm like, shouldn't that be doing something? You're all dead. It's like you should all be falling out of the sky right now and just crashing into the ocean or whatever, Boston Harbor, I don't know, right? But anyway, Godzilla ends up beating Ghidorah and goes back to, you know, base mode. And oh my goodness. And the other monsters that were there, you know, except for Mothra, because Mothra's dead, but Rodan shows up, and a bunch of the other monsters that were mentioned in the movie briefly during like these little site survey things on their iPads or whatever they were. and but they show up out of nowhere, I guess. Oh, that's what it was. They were all following Ghidorah, and Ghidorah was following the Orca. That's what it was. So once they were released, Ghidorah was like their big boss. So they were all following Ghidorah, and Ghidorah was following the Orca. So that's how they all ended up at Boston. So they all show up, and Godzilla's kind of just hanging out there on this hill by himself and you know, one by one these monsters just start bowing to Godzilla, which is like, why would the monsters bow? It's just like, I've never seen, like, have you ever seen, like, just in regular nature, like a lion bowing to another lion? It's like, good day, sir. It's like when the animals are asserting their dominance. I guess maybe that's what they were trying to emulate, with like animals bowing, not bowing their heads, but kind of just kind of like, you know, exposing their necks or whatever it is, you know, to show that they're submissive to the alpha of the pack. Maybe that's what it was. But it looked ridiculous because these huge monsters are like, and Rodan especially, because it's got its wings out and it kind of does its curtsy. I was just like, this is so dumb. So Godzilla, you know, recognizes everyone, and then it like screams into the heavens, and the movie ends. And this right here was just on my face. It was such a dumb movie, but it was so good. I highly recommend everyone watch it. The end credits did a really great job of setting up Godzilla versus King Kong, and it goes through like news clippings and a couple audio clips of Godzilla's role in managing the other kaiju around the world, and how Godzilla is basically like a champion for mankind against all the other monsters. So it does a really good job at that without being too expositive. I mean, the newspaper headlines, I guess you could say, are expositive, but it does a really good job with that. And I'm actually excited to see what Godzilla versus King Kong is like, even though I just saw today that it's been pushed. It looks like it's being pushed to 2021 or later part of 2020. So I don't know. When it comes out, I'll check the trailer out and see if it's like a Godzilla 2014 or if it's like a Godzilla 2019, basically. So yeah, check it out if you can, especially in the widescreen. If you got a big screen at home, then check it out. You know, once it comes on Netflix or DVD or whatever. Definitely a great movie to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, I watched it twice. The human stuff, didn't care for it, but the kaiju stuff, which is what you're there for, definitely great. And so that's all I've got. And as always,